We spend a ton of our lives at home, but do we ever really stop and think about how that space is, well, quietly shaping our health? Today, we're going to dive into that connection, this deep, often invisible link between our homes and our overall well-being. And that brings us to a really important question. Does it ever feel like you're just in a constant battle with your own house? You clean, you try to get organized, you buy all the stuff you're supposed to buy, but the sneezing, the stress, that feeling of clutter, it just always seems to creep back in. It's this frustrating loop, right? But what if the problem isn't how hard you're trying, but the approach you're taking?
All right, let's start with a common enemy for so many of us, allergies, and specifically the ones that get triggered by house dust mites. Now, the advice on how to deal with them seems pretty straightforward, but you might be surprised to hear that the science, well, it tells a very different story.
So here's where it gets really interesting. Look at the gap between what we're told to do and what the evidence actually shows. We're told, go buy those expensive allergen-proof covers for your bed, run HEPA filters 24/7. But when researchers did a massive review, pulling together a bunch of high-quality studies, they found that when you just do one of these things on its own, it just doesn't really move the needle on allergy symptoms. And this quote right here, it just gets right to the heart of it. The science is pretty clear. Just zipping up your mattress in a special cover isn't the magic bullet we all hope it is. It's not that these things are useless, but when they're used in isolation, they often fall flat. So what does that tell us? It tells us we need to think bigger, we need a more complete strategy. And this idea of a bigger, more holistic approach, it doesn't just apply to our physical health. The state of our home has this direct line connection to our state of mind. It's so true. A clear space can genuinely help create a clearer mind. And check this out. Here's a super simple way to lean into that connection. The act of cleaning itself can actually become a form of self-care. Seriously, if you choose cleaning products with certain scents, you can tap into aromatherapy. So, using a cleaner with citrus can give you a little energy boost. Pine has actually been shown to reduce feelings of anxiety. It's such a small tweak, but it completely transforms a chore into something that can genuinely boost your mood. Okay, so if isolated products and one-off cleaning sprees aren't the real answer, what is? Well, the real secret to a healthier home, one that helps with everything from dust mites to mental clutter, it's not about one big grand gesture. It's about small, consistent actions. It's all about the powerful science of forming habits. So I want you to think about this for a second. What number just popped into your head? If you're like most people, you are probably thinking of a very specific and very famous number. Yep, the 21-day myth. This idea is absolutely everywhere, but it actually comes from some casual observations a plastic surgeon made about his patients back in the 1960s. It wasn't from rigorous research on how we form habits. And honestly, believing in this myth can be so discouraging, right? Because day 22 rolls around, and that new thing you're trying to do still feels like a total grind. The reality, according to a landmark study, is that it takes on average 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic. Now, the key word there is average. Some things, like drinking a glass of water after you wake up, might lock in faster. More complex things might take longer. But the big takeaway isn't the exact number. It's the reassurance that this stuff takes time, and that is perfectly okay. The effort you're putting in now is what makes it feel effortless later. So what are we actually building during those 66 days? A habit. It isn't really about willpower. Think of it more like a shortcut your brain learns. It's an action, like wiping down the counter, that gets automatically triggered by a cue in your environment, like finishing breakfast. Once that link is strong enough, you don't have to decide to do it anymore. The cue happens and your brain just kicks off the action. Okay, this is where it all comes together, because understanding the psychology is great, but applying it is what actually changes things. So, here it is, a super simple, evidence-based toolkit to build your own healthy home habits. The process is just beautifully simple. First, pick a goal, but don't just say a clean house. Get specific, a tidier kitchen. Second, choose one tiny, simple action that moves you toward that goal, like just wiping down the counters. Third, and this is the most important part, plan your cue. The best cues are things you already do every single day, like finishing your breakfast. So your plan becomes, after I finish breakfast, I will wipe down the counters. And then you just do it over and over. That repetition is what forges the connection until it's automatic. And hey, the same logic works for making your bed right after you get up. A simple action that also happens to consistently reduce those dust mite habitats. And as you start to build these small habits, something really incredible starts to happen. These little actions, They stop feeling like these dreaded chores that you have to force yourself to do. They transform into something totally different, into positive, grounding rituals that bring a sense of order and control into your day. So, creating a healthier home isn't about some massive, overwhelming project. It's about choosing one small, meaningful action and turning it into an automatic, positive ritual. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. What small ritual will you start today? Thanks for joining me.